Hey, welcome back to Project Me. It's been a fair bit, not necessarily by choice that I haven't made these videos. I've been quite sick. You might be able to hear it in my voice, and I'm only just sort of recovering now. So I'm looking forward to getting back into it a little bit and just reflecting a bit more. But it's been good being sick in a way because, on one hand, it's allowed me to sort of consolidate and allowed me to be able to get a lot of work done that I wouldn't normally be able to do because I'm, at campus, meeting people or going to lectures, whatever. Now that I'm staying at home, it's much easier to just sort of just do my readings, to get crack on with the work I need to do, and that's it. A lot less time goes into, say, walking to campus, or there's no time out of my there's no time out of my day to talk to people because it's just me. So in that sense, being sick has been good because it's sort of limited the amount of distractions that I can have. On the other hand, I'm sick, and so it does take a toll, or the amount of the sheer amount of work you do, right? And it's been quite a tough week in that sense as well. There's just a lot that has gone on, and I've sort of forced myself to show up to things even though I've been sick. Purely because a lot of work has gone into it and I can't afford to just delay it. So for example, my charity, I organised a meeting on Wednesday with the team, brought in some fresh bloods with introductions. I did a lot of the prep work, to organise what I wanted to talk about in the meeting. So that meant, talking about the key tasks that I wanted to get done, key stakeholders that we wanted to engage with, sort of a rough timeline, and sort of bigger picture sort of ideas. And it was really good to get that meeting sorted. Unfortunately, because of the current economic state and philanthropic state of the world right now, there's a lot less money going towards charity and social enterprises, which means that the delivery of what we want to deliver won't actually be able to happen at least for another 6 months, which is an absolute shame because you start charities or social enterprises to make a difference, right? And you want to be able to make a difference as soon as possible. So when things get delayed and pushed back, it is a little bit demotivating in that sense because you want to make a difference and you want to do it now. It hurts to try and make a difference later because there's always, well, what if I had started now? How much difference could we have made in this 6 months as opposed to waiting 6 months to get started? And it's out of my control, but it's still a sort of painful thing to come to terms with. But that's okay. Excuse me. But yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about the sickness and sort of the week it's been. I get sick when I get stressed, and when I get sick and when I get stressed, I don't sleep at all. So it's been a very terrible week in that regard. I'm not sure what caused it. It could be a combination or just a single one of those things that sort of pushed this week to the edge. I'm not quite sure, but frankly, I'm shocked that I'm coping this well this far in. I haven't gotten more than perhaps 10 hours of sleep since Monday. Today is Friday, yeah. So I'm shocked that I'm doing this well. I'm able to fall asleep thanks to melatonin, no screen time before bed, some teas. I'm able to fall asleep pretty quick now, which is actually a huge improvement compared to in the past. But I'm not staying asleep. Like, last night, for example, in bed by 9:30, I really wanted to try and maximize my chances of getting to sleep and having a good night's sleep. In bed by 9:30, no phone at all, obviously. Asleep definitely by, say, 11:30. Wake up 2:30-ish. And I knew immediately when I got up, we were sort of rolling around for the next 45 minutes, but I knew immediately after that I was not going to be falling asleep again. So, by 3:30 in the morning, I decided, what the hell, I'm not going to go back to sleep, I'm going to study. Not by choice. So I studied 13 hours or something today. Some crazy amount because I couldn't sleep, and so I just got started really early. You know, it's a shame. It's a shame. But that's okay. But that lack of sleep definitely contributed to sickness, to this stress as well, because you know it's just harder to cope and be efficient with things when you're really stressed and on low sleep, right? You're just perpetually tired. But hey, that's okay. But just, you know, lots of things going on this week as well. Like I said, the meeting, a lot of background work went into that on my part. Had an essay due earlier this week. Now I'm getting started on 2 other essays. This weekend, I've joined a policy think tank as a policy advisor, obviously. And I've sort of set a deadline for myself of writing my first policy brief by this weekend as well. So just another thing piling on. And on top of that, you know, trying to go to the gym, which I haven't done this week because I've just been so sick, and it's obviously not fair on me to go to the gym and show up and maybe make other people sick. Not good at all. So I've stayed home. I haven't gone to the gym. And then next week, you know, tutorials are starting. It's been very lax the last 2 weeks because there hasn't been any tutorials. So I'm going to have even less time going forward. Plus the 2 jobs I work. So crazy amount of stuff going on. Very stressful. There's always something on my plate. And on one hand, I love it. On the other hand, I hate it. Right? I love it because it keeps me busy. It is really, you know, it is often quite interesting stuff. I might hate doing it in the moment, but it is quite interesting to reflect on. It's great to build the CV or the resume. But on the other hand, you know, it takes a toll. The sheer amount of stuff that I do, and, you know, because it's so many different things as well, my attention is split on at least half a dozen things at any given time, which makes it hard to stay up to date on everything and, you know, give everything the attention that it deserves. And then, of course, because you're not giving everything the attention it deserves, when you give it less than, you start to feel bad about it as well, right? Because you know it deserves more, but you're not capable of giving it the extra bit that it needs. So, yeah, it can be stressful, and it just piles on. It's quite circular, which is really unfortunate. So I've got to find a way out of this sort of cycle and live life, I guess. One way, I suppose, would be to just take on less things, right? But I've always, and it'd be very hard for me to do that, I think, to drop something or a few things, ideally. Very hard because I've always sort of subscribed to the idea that, you know, if you want greatness, you need to sacrifice. The more painful it is now, the easier it will be later, you know? And so all this suffering. Am I going to sneeze or not? I don't think I am. All this suffering that I'm doing now has the end goal of chasing a dream, right? You chase a dream, you run the hard yards now, the closer you'll be in a year. The closer you'll be in the future. But the flaw with that logic is, of course, that you're always looking ahead and you're never looking at now. Right? If you have your eyes set on the heavens, where's the ground? What's holding you up? Right? So there's definitely some flaw in that in my life logic that I have to figure out, and I will have to drop something. It's inevitable. What I'm doing now is completely unsustainable. I just don't know how to choose what to drop, I guess, which is where the problem comes in. And I can't say no. I'm dreadful. I'm terrible at it. I can't say no. I keep saying yes, I'll do this, yes, I'll do that. And at a certain point, I know I'm going to drown, and I will drown terribly. And that's okay. Well, it's not okay, really, but I've accepted it's going to happen. Hopefully it doesn't, of course, but only so much you can do. Listen, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the stress bit, and I'm very conscious this video is already 10 minutes, so I want to keep it very short from here on. But yesterday, because I couldn't talk, I was journaling, and I wasn't quite sure if this stress, or just how I'm feeling now, was a product of stress, or was it because I was just fundamentally unhappy with where I'm at right now in life. And for this journal entry, I just sort of said, okay, let's assume you're unhappy right now. What is it that is making you unhappy? And in the limited time that I gave myself to answer the question, I came up with 2 factors. The first one being that I was just lonely. And the second one being that, hold on, deuxième, je crois que je suis solitaire. Oh no, it's the first one. It's the second one, sorry. The first one, I've written it in French, sorry. The first one being that I'm just doing too many things. We've already talked about that, which is great. So we'll just get on to the second one, which is loneliness. And some people have very mixed opinions about this, but for the sake of being on the same page, let's just label this the classic male loneliness epidemic. I thought quite a bit about this the last day and a bit, and I think, well, I would consider myself a victim of that epidemic. And I'll explain why in a second. I'm not trying to victimize myself, by the way. And I suspect a lot of people who also feel similarly will relate to what I have to say, I hope. But I have friends. I have plenty of friends, but there are very few that I feel close enough to that I could just share what I want. And even then, with the people that I could share what I wanted, there are sort of implicit boundaries in our relationship. You know, my friend M, for example, he's always working, and you know, he's got his girlfriend, he lives on the other side of town. It's very hard for us to meet outside of school. I'm very conscious that there are very physical and very explicit and very implicit boundaries in terms of where our relationship goes. I can't tell him everything because his life doesn't revolve around me, right? So there are some lines that I don't, and I hope he doesn't cross, because I would hate to see himself throw himself off the bus purely to help me out, right? And so there are a lot of all of my close friendships are sort of categorized by those sort of implicit boundaries, which then makes it hard to share everything that I want to share. I'm very conscious of the fact that, you know, people have their own lives. It's not all about me. Shocking, I know, shocking. But I'm being fully sarcastic. I hope that's very, very clear. I don't think like this. But my point is, there are some things you just don't expect from other people. And for me, one of those things is that they are just there for me utterly. In terms of what I want to tell them, in terms of how they can help me, I don't demand everything of them, because I think it's completely unfair to demand that of them. And so in that sense, maybe I'm lonely, because I will never ever be able to tell everyone everything to someone. Sorry, I'll restart that. I will never ever be able to tell everything that goes on within me to someone. I don't think. And maybe it's because I don't have a partner. I'm not in a relationship, because from what I understand, a lot of men reserve that sort of no boundaries communication for their partner, and there are merits to that, sure. I'm not saying that whether that's good or bad. I'm just saying that that is something that tends to happen, and because I don't have that, I've noticed that I'm not sharing everything with people that maybe I should share a lot more with. So, food for thought. I have to think about it a lot more, but hopefully I've got a bit of time this weekend to sit down and actually think about it. I'm not optimistic, but I guess we'll find out. But in any case, I hope you're all doing really well. I hope you've all had a fantastic week, and you're about to have a wonderful weekend. So listen, all the best, you guys. Take care. Cheers.